That's the Metropolitan Fight Song. Metropolitan Church of Christ, I want to just mention, we're a congregation that decided to do some things in our community. And so we have a recovery house, and we have a counseling center. We have a house where we take homeless people, homeless men, and they actually live there. And they transition from tax burden to taxpayer. Many of you have a copy of our newsletter. I've got a couple more left. There's one on the counter outside. But we started just with a dream and an idea and no money. And God blessed us, and we own a place that's worth almost $1 million. And now we have 3 houses instead of just 1 house. And so, and one of the biggest joys I've ever received is going to preach at the Fairfield Church of Christ. And 2 girls were crying profusely in the front row. And after the sermon, they kept crying, and they helped each other to me. And then they grabbed me and said, "Thanks for bringing our daddy back home. Thanks for bringing our daddy back home." Every time you see a homeless person, that's somebody's son, that's somebody's daddy. Every time you see a drug addict wasting his life away, who's given up on life, that's somebody, that could be somebody's father, and you know it has to be somebody's son. And so that's the way I look at it, folks. Jesus died for people. Matthew 25:31, when the Son of Man shall come in his glory, all the holy angels with him. He's not going to ask you. He's not going to talk about how many times you made it to Bible class, or did you make it to service on time. When I was hungry, did you feed me? When I was thirsty, did you give me a drink? When I was in prison, did you come visit me? As much as you've did it unto the least of these little ones, you have done it unto me. Amen, amen. And that's what Jesus is going to ask. And so, folks, 2 Samuel chapter 17, and I'd like you to sing with me the fight song, the Metropolitan Fight Song. Okay, 2 Samuel, the 17th chapter. I'm sorry, 1 Samuel. The 1 Samuel, the 17th chapter. I'm sorry. And I'd like to read in your hearing, starting at verse 1. Now the Philistines gathered their forces for war and assembled at Succoth in Judah. They pitched camp at Ephes Demim between Succoth and Ascah. Saul and the Israelites assembled and camped in the valley of Elah and drew up their battle line to meet the Philistines. The Philistines occupied the hill, and the Israelites another hill with the valley between them. A champion named Goliath from Gath, 9 feet tall, I'm going to paraphrase this, spear, huge shield. He's a giant, 9 feet. And the average person at that time was about 4'10", 5 feet tall. They were short in those days. And then dropping down, it says in verse 8, Goliath stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel, "Why do you come out and line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine? And are you not the servants of Saul? Choose a man and have him come down to me. If he is able to fight and kill me, we will become your servants. But if I overcome him and kill him, you will become subjects and serve us. You become our subjects and serve us." Then the Philistine said, "This day I defy the ranks of Israel. Give me a man and let us fight each other." On hearing the Philistines' words, Saul and all Israel were dismayed and terrified. Now David was the son of an Ephrathite named Jesse, who was from Bethlehem in Judea. We talked about Bethlehem, Hebrew word Beth meaning house of, and then Lahem meaning bread. Bread of life, where were you born? House of bread, okay? Not incidental, not accidental, but providential, okay? And so Going down a few more verses in verse 32. Verse 32, let's turn verse 32, and I'd like for Brother Range to read verse 32 and 37 for me.
32 and 37?
Yes, 32 and 37.
And David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight this Philistine. And David said, moreover, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion, out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of the Philistine. And Saul said unto David, go, and the Lord be with thee.
All right. Our text is about Goliath, the giant of the Philistines, calling out Israel to send out a champion to fight against him. Goliath made the challenge every day for 40 days, if you look at the text. Goliath dared to defy the armies of the living God. David, the mighty boy, will not stand for it. I want to take for a subject tonight, David the boy, or David the mighty boy. We're talking about, we started off Sunday talking about mighty men. David's mighty men, 2 Samuel, the 23rd chapter. In that mighty men, in the worst of times, the most perilous of times, God always raised up somebody to deal with those perilous times. And here we have God raising up in the perilous times of Israel, when you have a king motivated by jealousy running down David, trying to kill him. Towards the end of David's life, we find out why he overcame and why he did so well, because he was surrounded by mighty men who did great exploits. But we started Sunday night, we decided to talk about David the boy, because we wanted to go back to the idea of David, this boy, being a mighty boy who grew into a mighty man. And so here we're looking at David the mighty boy, part 2. All right? David the mighty boy, part 2. I want to show in this lesson that God can do wonders with a willing and yielding heart. And my objective is that we look at the story for parallels and applications in our own lives and those who God has called us to minister to. First of all, we see the story of defiance. A story of defiance on Saul's side, and then a story that defies all logic on David's side. Many of you have read this story, heard this story over and over and over again. But I wish to just share some thoughts that I'm pretty sure you've heard, but I think you probably need to be reminded of them, just like myself. And so I'm doing this series at Metropolitan, and Leroy said, do it down here. And so, you don't like it? Talk to Leroy. All right. Amen, amen. Amen, amen. Okay. All right. David is showing as a boy why God was able to use him as a mighty man. He's showing as a boy. Remember, when God chose him to be king, he was not Samuel's choice. Because when Samuel saw Eliab, in chapter 16, he says, surely this is the Lord's anointed. And God said, not that one. I don't choose that way. And then he saw the other sons, all 7 of them. And then David was out in the field somewhere. He was not even considered a son. Samuel had to ask him, are there not any other sons you have? God has rejected all of these. And he says, yes, I do have one out in the field. They were about to sit down and sacrifice. God told Samuel told Jesse and all of his sons to consecrate themselves unto the Lord. And so no, David, you're not even a part of that. You're not considered a son. You're not the prophet's choice. You're not the father's choice. You're not the people's choice, but you are God's choice. We talked about that the other night. Being God's choice. Okay?